In a world where every moment is a performance, some people choose silence. It's almost like a game of show and tell, but instead of toys or drawings, we're sharing our very lives. Every mundane detail and every grand experience is broadcasted for the world to see. Birthdays, vacations, the latest meal, even the most fleeting emotions are captured and polished, ready to be displayed on the digital stage. But then there's the quiet few, the ones who don't post, don't tweet, don't snap. They simply observe, scrolling through their feeds, their eyes taking in the highs and lows of others' lives, but choosing not to engage. It's not that they're antisocial or shy. They're not lacking in opinions or experiences. They just don't feel the need to turn their life into content. And it leaves us wondering, why? Why would anyone want to stay invisible in a world that practically demands visibility? It's easy to assume that these people are introverts, preferring solitude over the noise of social media. But there's more to it than that. What they're doing isn't avoiding connection or rejecting the world. It's about resisting the subtle pressure to constantly be performing. When everything around us screams for attention, for validation through likes, shares, and comments, choosing not to participate feels like an act of rebellion. And in a world that's become more about likes than true human connection, staying silent can almost feel like stepping outside the game entirely. But it's not just silence for the sake of silence. For many, it's a deliberate choice to keep certain parts of their lives personal and untouched by the prying eyes of the internet. It's about control over what is shared, what is experienced, and what remains private. It's about recognizing that not every moment needs to be witnessed by others to be valuable. In fact, some of the most profound moments in life, those that shape who we are, happen in private, without an audience. Choosing silence is not about hiding, but rather about reclaiming those moments for themselves, free from the pressures of the public eye. It's about choosing depth over breadth, substance over spectacle. So when we see someone who doesn't post, we shouldn't automatically assume they're disconnected or uninterested. Maybe, just maybe, they're more connected to themselves than anyone else. Maybe they've found a way to experience life in its raw, unfiltered form, without the need for constant approval from the world. In a world obsessed with showing up, they're choosing to show up for themselves. And in doing so, they're holding on to something that most of us have forgotten: the value of simply being without the need to prove it to anyone. Silence can be a powerful form of control. It's not merely the absence of noise or words. For some, it's an intentional act of personal sovereignty. In a world where the constant rush to post, share, and update feels almost mandatory, stepping back from the digital spotlight becomes a deliberate choice, a choice rooted in the power to decide what stays private and what enters the public domain. We live in a time where social media platforms are essentially stages, and everyone is expected to perform in some way. From the smallest, most mundane moments, like the coffee you're drinking or the view from your window, to the more significant events like milestones or emotional breakthroughs. Everything has a place in the digital performance. It's hard to escape this expectation, right? But for those who choose not to post, silence becomes an act of control. It's a way to reclaim ownership over their lives, a conscious decision to determine how much of their story gets told and to whom. This is more than just shying away from the spotlight. It's an acknowledgement that social media, despite its promises of connection, often trades authenticity for visibility. By choosing silence, non-posters reject the idea that validation comes from others' attention or approval. When everything we do can be uploaded, shared, and scrutinized, it's easy to get caught in the need for validation, chasing the dopamine rush that comes from likes and comments. But non-posters see this trap for what it is. They don't want to participate in a game that reduces their life to a series of performative moments. Instead, they make the conscious choice to exist outside that cycle, opting for personal experiences that are for them and them alone. Their silence is not because they have nothing to say, it's because they recognize that not everything in life needs to be shared. There's power in keeping certain moments, thoughts, and feelings to themselves, untouched by the digital world's tendency to misinterpret, distort, or judge. This quiet control offers them something much more meaningful than the fleeting satisfaction of likes. They're not subjecting their worth to the judgment of strangers on the internet. They've found a sense of inner confidence that's independent of external validation. By withholding their lives from the digital audience, they're maintaining ownership of their personal narrative. Think about it. Every time you post something on social media, it's not just sharing an experience, it's offering a piece of yourself to be consumed, interpreted, and even judged by others. For those who refrain from posting, there's a deeper value in keeping some aspects of their lives for themselves. It's about protecting the sacredness of moments that don't need to be consumed by an outside world to hold meaning. It's not about rejecting social media. It's about realizing that not every moment has to be part of the public record. These individuals understand the transient nature of online validation. It's fleeting, it's performative, and it's often based on a superficial understanding of who they are. Instead, they seek more lasting, meaningful experiences that aren't dependent on likes or comments. Silence for them is a conscious act of self-preservation, not of withdrawal. It's about living in a way that's free from the pressure to be constantly visible or to prove something to others. In a world that has trained us to equate worth with visibility, stepping away from the noise feels like a radical, empowering choice. And what's even more powerful is how this silence allows them to observe the world with a clear and unclouded perspective. Because they're not busy crafting a persona or fighting for attention, they have space to truly see what's around them. They watch the world's performances from the sidelines, and in doing so, they become the ones who understand the game most clearly. They notice the details that others miss, the unspoken interactions, the quiet moments that reveal far more about life than a perfectly curated photo ever could. While everyone else is caught in the rush to be seen, those who choose silence take a step back and understand something fundamental. True depth comes not from being constantly observed, but from existing without needing to be seen at all. In choosing silence, they embrace a deeper form of connection to themselves and the world around them, something that's untouched by the superficial demands of the digital age. The people who don't post are often the ones who are most emotionally in tune with themselves. It's easy to assume that silence on social media means a lack of engagement, but the truth is, those who choose not to post are often the most introspective. While many of us might share every detail of our lives with the world, whether it's a picture of our meal or a snapshot of our vacation, people who don't post are busy looking inward, processing their thoughts and understanding their emotions without the constant need for external feedback. In a world where social media can feel like an endless quest for approval, these individuals have learned to rely on their own internal compass, rather than seeking validation from likes or comments. They often score higher on traits like self-restraint, emotional independence, and introspection, qualities that are hard to nurture in an environment that constantly rewards outward display. Think about it. Social media encourages a very specific type of engagement, one that is designed to keep us looking outward. It encourages us to measure our worth against others and to constantly seek approval. But for those who choose not to post, their focus is internal. They're not trying to prove anything to anyone. They're trying to understand who they are on a deeper level. They don't need the world to define them. They're more interested in discovering their own truths. This kind of emotional independence is rare, especially in a world that thrives on comparisons and validation. These individuals aren't immune to the pressures of social media. They simply choose not to engage with them. What's interesting is that this introspection isn't born out of avoidance. It's a conscious decision to step away from the noise and take the time to truly connect with themselves. They're not running from the world, they're choosing to exist in a quieter, more intentional space. This introspection allows them to develop a stronger sense of self, one that isn't constantly being shaped by the opinions or expectations of others. It's easy to get caught in the cycle of trying to prove who we are through the content we post. Each picture, each status update becomes a way to show the world, this is who I am. Do you approve? But non-posters don't need to prove themselves to anyone. Their self-worth doesn't depend on how many likes or comments they get. Instead, they've learned to validate themselves from within. Their ability to be emotionally independent is something we could all learn from. In a world where many people tie their identities to their online presence, non-posters are living reminders that you don't need to perform for others to feel seen. They've understood that true self-expression comes from within, not from the validation of an audience. They're not measuring their success by the number of likes on their posts or the number of followers they have. Instead, their success is measured by their ability to understand their own thoughts, process their emotions, and grow as individuals without the constant need for external approval. This level of emotional awareness allows them to live with a sense of peace that many of us are still striving for. Furthermore, by choosing not to engage in the performance of social media, these individuals have learned to be less influenced by the opinions of others. Social comparison is a natural human tendency, but social media magnifies it. We see what others are doing, what they're posting, and we naturally begin to measure our own lives against theirs. But for non-posters, this external influence is less of a factor. They're not constantly looking around at what everyone else is doing. They're focused on their own journey. They recognize that everyone's path is different, and they're not playing the comparison game. This emotional independence allows them to be more content with where they are in life, without the need to constantly keep up with the digital narrative others are creating. In essence, the people who don't post have found a way to connect with their true selves in a world that often encourages us to create a version of ourselves for public consumption. They've figured out that emotional fulfillment doesn't come from being constantly seen. It comes from understanding who you are, how you feel, and being comfortable in your own skin. In a society where being visible often equals being valuable, they remind us that self-worth isn't determined by how much attention we get online. It's determined by how well we know and accept ourselves. Most of what we post on social media is a performance, whether we realize it or not. When we share something online, it's rarely just about communication. It's about crafting an identity for the world to see, to admire, and to validate. Every post, whether it's a photo, a status update, or a story, becomes a part of the ongoing project we call self-presentation. Think about it. How many times have you posted something because you wanted to capture a moment, but then realized you were more focused on the reaction it would get than the experience itself? For many, it's become second nature to think in terms of captions, hashtags, and perfectly framed images. It's like we're all auditioning for an audience that may not even exist, constantly seeking approval and acknowledgement in the form of likes, comments, and shares. And let's be honest, it can feel pretty good when those notifications start rolling in, right? It's like a little shot of dopamine, instant gratification for being seen, for being heard. But here's the thing, those who choose not to post aren't avoiding connection. Instead, they found something much deeper, the freedom to just be, without the need for validation from the outside world. For non-posters, silence is not a rejection of the digital world, but a conscious decision to disengage from the performance. When you're not constantly posting and sharing, you start to experience life more fully, without the pressure to make everything shareable. Life becomes less about curating an image and more about living authentically, unfiltered. It's almost as if they've unplugged from the system that runs on constant feedback, and in doing so, they've found a deeper connection to their own experiences. They can enjoy a meal without feeling the need to snap a picture of it. They can travel without needing to tag every location. They can laugh or cry without wondering if it's Instagram-worthy. For them, the moment itself is enough, and that's incredibly freeing. They don't need others to witness their happiness or their heartbreaks, because those experiences are rich and meaningful in their own right. This shift away from posting also represents a deeper recognition of what social media has become, a space where everything is turned into content. Life itself becomes something to be consumed, dissected, and judged. The moment you post something, it stops being yours, it becomes part of the digital ecosystem, available for anyone to comment on, like or share. It's no longer just a part of your personal experience, it's now subject to public opinion. This transformation isn't always intentional, but it's undeniable. In this context, choosing to step away from the need to post is a decision to protect the integrity of your experiences. It's about reclaiming ownership of your moments and your memories, keeping them untouched by the collective gaze of the internet. Moreover, non-posters often crave something that's missing in the online world: authenticity. When we're constantly engaged in the act of performing on social media, it becomes harder to distinguish between who we really are and who we're projecting for others to see. Many people get so caught up in curating their online persona that they start to lose touch with their true selves. Every post becomes a little piece of a puzzle, a part of an identity that's crafted more for others than for themselves. But for those who don't post, the need for external validation doesn't factor into how they define themselves. They don't need to share every achievement or display every emotion to feel real. They know that their worth isn't tied to the public's perception of them. It's rooted in something much more personal, much more grounded in who they are when no one is watching. The real power here is the ability to experience life for what it truly is, without feeling the need to turn every moment into content. The act of not posting becomes a radical declaration of independence from the digital performance. It's not about rejecting social media, but rather refusing to reduce life into a series of shareable moments. When you stop posting, you can start living for yourself again, rather than living for an audience that exists only in the virtual world. And perhaps the most profound realization that comes with this is that you no longer need the approval of others to feel validated. Your worth doesn't depend on the likes or comments you receive. Instead, it's about the quiet satisfaction of knowing that your experiences, your moments, and your feelings are yours to keep, untarnished by the digital world's demands. You've moved beyond the performance and embraced the authenticity of just being. In many ways, this decision to step away from posting isn't a rejection of connection. It's an invitation to a deeper, more meaningful form of connection. It's a reminder that real connection doesn't have to be broadcasted. It can exist quietly, without an audience, in the shared silence of understanding and presence. And in a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the people who choose to be silent are the ones who truly understand the power of just being. For some, the decision to stop posting comes after a kind of emotional burnout. Imagine pouring your heart into every post, sharing your highs, your lows, and every little moment in between. At first, it feels exciting. There's a sense of connection, of being seen, of sharing your life with others. But over time, something shifts. The joy of sharing becomes overshadowed by an invisible pressure. Every post, every update starts to feel like a performance, not a real connection. You find yourself keeping up with the expectations of your audience, rather than living authentically in the moment. The pressure mounts. Every beautiful moment becomes an opportunity for comparison, and every personal experience demands to be outdone by the next one. You feel as if you're living to impress, to perform, rather than to truly live. It's exhausting, and eventually the thrill of sharing is replaced by a sense of emptiness. You begin to realize that you're not experiencing life anymore. You're simply documenting it for others to consume. So, without any dramatic announcement, you slowly disappear from the feed. You stop posting, stop sharing, and for the first time in a long time, you reclaim the peace that comes with keeping parts of your life just for yourself. This quiet retreat isn't about rejecting the digital world entirely. It's not about saying, I hate social media, or I don't care about connecting. It's about recognizing that the act of sharing has stopped being fulfilling and has become emotionally draining. It's a realization that posting constantly isn't helping you connect. It's just feeding an empty cycle. There's a profound exhaustion that comes from trying to keep up with the ever-growing expectations of visibility. Social media encourages us to perform our lives, to always show the best, the happiest, the most successful versions of ourselves. But the truth is, we're all human, and not every moment is perfect. Not every day is filled with accomplishments or excitement. But when you're trapped in the cycle of constant posting, you start to feel like you have to pretend otherwise. You stop sharing moments for their intrinsic value and start sharing them for the validation they bring. For many, the burnout comes when they realize that every time they share something beautiful, there's an invisible weight attached to it, the need to outdo themselves with the next post. The act of sharing becomes less about the moment itself and more about crafting an image for others to see. This is the point when silence feels like a breath of fresh air. You don't have to keep proving your worth, keep seeking approval, or keep competing with the curated lives of others. Instead, you begin to experience life again, without the need for a camera lens or an online audience. This emotional burnout is the point where you finally recognize that sharing every moment online has been an emotional drain, and that what's been missing all along is the ability to simply be, without the pressure to make it perfect or worthy of applause. Choosing silence after this burnout isn't a sign of withdrawal. It's a form of self-preservation. It's about protecting your mental and emotional space, about reclaiming your life from the constant demand to perform. These individuals aren't hiding, they're healing. They're reconnecting with what it means to experience life without the weight of external expectations. The beauty of this decision is that it allows them to return to the core of their own experiences. They don't need the world to validate their happiness, their growth, or their pain. They begin to find peace in the moments that don't need to be shared. There's no need for an audience to witness their victories, their struggles, or their quiet joys. They've learned that true fulfillment doesn't come from likes or comments. It comes from the simple, unshared moments of living. In a way, this decision marks a kind of emotional rebirth. You rediscover the joy of experiences that are completely your own. Cooking without photographing it, reading a book without feeling the need to share your thoughts on it, traveling without tagging every location. These are the moments that hold the deepest meaning because they're not shared to impress or to gain approval. They're shared with yourself. And in a world that's always telling us to show up, to be seen, to broadcast our lives, this return to privacy can feel like a radical act. It's a way of saying that you're enough, exactly as you are, without needing to display it for anyone else to appreciate. So for those who choose not to post, their silence isn't about rejection, it's about restoration. They've stepped out of the performative cycle and returned to a space where they can just exist, experience, and grow in peace. Their moments are not measured by how many people see them, but by how deeply they connect with them. In this space, there's no need to prove anything. There's only the freedom to be. And that in itself is a kind of quiet revolution. In a world where everything feels staged, choosing not to post becomes a pursuit of authenticity. We've all seen it. Those perfectly curated Instagram feeds, the beautifully edited photos, and the captions that sound almost too perfect to be real. Social media, for all its benefits, has a way of creating a version of life that is polished, controlled, and heavily filtered. It's a space where the raw, unrefined moments are often lost in favour of what looks good, what fits into the latest trend, or what will get the most attention. And yet, for some, this performance isn't fulfilling. It's exhausting. The constant pressure to show up in a way that meets society's expectations of perfection can be overwhelming. But for those who choose not to post, the decision is driven by something deeply human, a need for something real. They want to experience life for what it is, not for how it looks through a camera lens. The people who don't post are not necessarily rejecting social media or technology. Rather, they're rejecting the idea that their life is just another piece of content. They've become acutely aware of the fact that social media, while connecting us, often distorts reality. It turns simple moments into commodities that can be judged, praised, or criticized. These non-posters have come to value the authenticity that can only exist when you remove the need for external validation. For them, the act of posting isn't about sharing life's true moments. It's about crafting an image, and that's a very different thing. What they crave is authenticity, a genuine connection with their own experiences that isn't shaped or filtered by the need to impress or conform to online trends. This desire for authenticity is rooted in something much deeper than just living off the grid or stepping away from the constant buzz of social media. It's about reclaiming ownership over what is real. When you're not constantly posting, you're no longer trying to meet anyone's expectations. There's no need to measure your happiness by how many people approve of it. You don't need the world to see your success, your joy, or even your struggles in order for them to be meaningful. These moments exist for you, in their purest form, untainted by the pressures of social media approval. The decision to stay quiet online doesn't come from a place of disdain for the platform itself. It comes from a desire to preserve life as something sacred, not to be commodified or packaged for consumption. Furthermore, choosing silence in a world of noise offers a profound sense of freedom. It's not about being antisocial or avoiding connection. It's about choosing a different type of connection, one that is deeper, more meaningful, and free from the superficial layers that often define online interactions. When you stop posting, you begin to truly experience life again, without the lens of a digital audience. You can take a walk in the park, have a meaningful conversation, or enjoy a beautiful sunset without the need to share it with the world. These moments remain purely yours, untouched by the need for external recognition. And in this space of silence, you rediscover something essential: the joy of simply living, without the pressure to perform. In today's hypervisibility culture, where being seen is often equated with being important, choosing to remain unseen takes courage. It's a quiet rebellion against a world that constantly demands our attention, constantly wants us to perform, to advertise our lives, and to share our every thought. Non-posters understand that they don't need to validate their existence through likes or comments. They know that life is more than a series of digital snapshots. It's the unshared moments, the quiet conversations, the private victories, the intimate moments of growth that often shape us the most. And they're willing to let those moments remain untouched, untold, and purely their own. In the end, it's not about rejecting technology or social media. It's about rejecting the idea that life needs to be broadcasted to be meaningful. The people who choose not to post understand that true authenticity can't be manufactured. It's not something that can be captured in a perfectly staged photo or a carefully worded post. It's the real, unfiltered experiences that happen behind the scenes in the moments that no one else will ever see. And for them, that's where the most valuable parts of life reside, quietly, privately, and authentically. The decision not to post is often rooted in a fear of judgment, rejection, and misunderstanding. In a world where social media is so deeply woven into the fabric of our lives, it can feel as though we're constantly being watched, evaluated, and critiqued. Every status update, every photo shared, every opinion expressed is out there, available for public consumption. And while many of us feel comfortable sharing our lives online, there's an undeniable anxiety that comes with it. What if people don't understand what I'm saying? What if my words or actions are misinterpreted? What if I'm judged? For many, this fear of judgment is subtle but powerful, and it can be paralyzing. The anxiety of being misunderstood or rejected, of not living up to some imagined standard, can create a deep sense of pressure that turns social media into something exhausting rather than enjoyable. This is where the decision not to post comes in. It's not about wanting to disconnect from others. It's about protecting yourself from the emotional toll of being constantly under the microscope. For non-posters, the cost of visibility can feel too high. Every time they share something, they open themselves up to scrutiny, to the potential of being misunderstood, or to simply being ignored. This constant self-awareness, knowing that everything they say or do online is being watched and potentially judged, creates a kind of emotional fatigue that many are simply too exhausted to bear. They start to question whether the connection they're seeking through social media is worth the emotional toll of putting themselves out there. It's not that they don't want to connect with others, it's that they want to do so in a way that feels authentic and true, not performative or subject to the whims of public opinion. So, they retreat from the digital world, choosing not to share because the emotional risk of being misunderstood feels too great. What's often misunderstood about these silent individuals is that they do care. They care deeply about connection, about being understood, and about being seen. But they've learned that the type of visibility social media offers is often shallow, temporary, and subject to constant reinterpretation. It's easy to feel lost in a sea of likes, comments, and hashtags, where your true intentions can easily be misconstrued. They crave connection, but they want it to be real, not mediated through the distorting lens of social media. This fear of being misunderstood is more common than we realize, and for many non-posters, it's the very reason they've chosen to step back. It's not about rejecting connection altogether, but about seeking a form of connection that is genuine and not dependent on external validation. The quietest voices online often have the most to say. While many people are busy broadcasting their every thought and moment to the world, non-posters are thinking, processing, and reflecting in ways that others often overlook. They don't need to share their thoughts with everyone to feel validated. They carry a wealth of insights and experiences within themselves. The irony, of course, is that while they may choose silence online, their minds are anything but silent. These individuals are often filled with ideas, emotions, and reflections, but they've learned that they don't need an audience to process or express them. They understand something that's hard to grasp in today's digital age. Not everything needs to be shared to be real. Some of the most meaningful thoughts and experiences are deeply personal, meant to be kept private and internal, and they are perfectly content with that. In a sense, their silence is not about withdrawal or isolation, it's a form of self-protection. They've created boundaries between themselves and the often harsh realities of online visibility. And this isn't a sign of weakness or fear, it's a sign of emotional intelligence. They understand the emotional costs of putting yourself out there for the world to critique, and they've decided it's not worth it unless it's for something truly meaningful. It's a decision to protect their mental and emotional well-being in an environment that can be draining and overwhelming. What's also important to recognize is that this fear of judgment isn't always about others' opinions directly. It's often about the perceived judgment, what we believe others might think or how we imagine we're being viewed. The fear of rejection or misunderstanding can be so ingrained that it shapes our behavior in subtle ways. For those who don't post, this awareness of potential judgment can feel like a weight too heavy to carry, and so they opt for silence instead. They know that when they step away from social media, they remove the pressure of constantly measuring themselves against the digital standard. They can experience life on their terms without the invisible eye of social media always hovering above them. And for many, this choice is one of the most freeing decisions they can make. It's about choosing to live authentically, without the fear of how others might perceive them. So, the decision not to post isn't a rejection of connection. It's a deeper, more nuanced understanding of what it means to connect on a real, human level. It's about choosing authenticity over performance, depth over visibility, and emotional peace over external approval. While many of us might be caught up in the endless cycle of online self-presentation, those who stay silent are quietly carving out a space for themselves where they can be free from judgment, where they can exist without needing to prove their worth to anyone. And in that silence, they find a kind of freedom that's hard to come by in the noise of the digital world. The quietest people online often have the loudest thoughts in their minds. It's easy to mistake silence for absence, to assume that if someone isn't posting or sharing, they have nothing to say. But in reality, many of those who choose not to engage in the noise of social media are the ones with the deepest internal dialogues. Their silence isn't a reflection of emptiness. It's often a sign of profound introspection, a mental space where ideas, emotions, and observations swirl without the need for an audience. These individuals aren't ignoring the world, they're quietly absorbing it, reflecting on it, and making sense of it in ways that most of us are too busy to do. While others are caught in the frenzy of updating their feeds, the non-posters are processing, analysing, and questioning. Their minds are in constant motion, turning over ideas and reflecting on the complexities of the world, but they don't feel the need to broadcast it. They understand something most of us forget. Not every thought or feeling needs to be shared in order to be meaningful. In fact, the decision not to post can be a sign of emotional and intellectual depth. Think about it. How often do we post something because we feel an overwhelming need to express ourselves, only to realize later that we were more concerned with the reaction it would get than with the thought itself? Many of us have become so accustomed to the digital reflex of sharing our every thought and moment that it can be hard to slow down and truly think without the expectation of having to present it to the world. But those who choose not to post have learned how to separate the impulse to share from the need to process internally. Their silence is not a sign of indifference, it's a sign that they're fully engaged with their own thoughts, working through them in a private space, unfiltered and uninterrupted by the noise of external opinions. These individuals often have rich, complex inner lives, and the act of not posting is a conscious decision to guard that space. While the rest of us are busy curating our online personas, they're focused on cultivating a deeper, more personal understanding of themselves. They're not trying to present a version of themselves to the world. They're simply living in their own skin, thinking, feeling, and experiencing life without needing to turn it into content. There's something incredibly freeing about this. In a world where self-worth is often measured by how visible we are online, those who don't post have found a different kind of confidence. They don't need the world to know what they're thinking or feeling to validate their existence. Their thoughts and emotions belong to them, and that ownership is empowering. The irony, of course, is that while these individuals may seem quiet or distant to the outside world, they're often the ones who have the most to say when given the space to do so. They're not uninterested or disconnected. They're simply choosing not to contribute to the constant barrage of information that social media has become. Their thoughts are often more profound because they take the time to process them deeply, without the urge to externalize them for the sake of validation. This means that when they do choose to speak, their words carry weight. They aren't just reacting to the latest trend or participating in the noise. They are offering something considered, intentional, and meaningful. And here's another fascinating aspect of this silence. The people who don't post often become incredibly skilled listeners. Since they're not constantly focused on broadcasting their own thoughts and experiences, they spend more time observing and listening. They absorb the world around them in a way that most of us miss, noticing subtleties, paying attention to details, and picking up on things that others may overlook. They aren't distracted by the need to perform for an audience. They're tuned in to the people, the environment, and the moments around them. This ability to listen, to truly take in what's happening, often makes them more empathetic and insightful. They understand things on a deeper level, not because they talk more, but because they pay attention more. For non-posters, the need for an audience isn't about rejection. It's about understanding the deeper value of silence and presence. They know that some of the most meaningful thoughts and experiences are not meant to be shared with the world. They are content with holding their inner world in a private space, unfiltered and untouched by the need for approval. They've learned that just because something isn't broadcasted doesn't mean it's not valuable. In fact, some of the most profound moments in life happen in silence, away from the spotlight. And it's in these moments of solitude and reflection that these individuals truly connect with who they are and what they believe. In a society that rewards constant sharing and visibility, their decision to stay silent online is a reminder of something fundamental. Not every thought, feeling, or experience needs to be put out into the world for it to have meaning. Sometimes the most powerful form of self-expression is simply living quietly, absorbing life's lessons, and holding those insights close without the need for external validation. And when these individuals do choose to speak, when they finally open up and share, you can bet that what they have to say is far more profound than the endless noise of the online world. They've thought about it, processed it, and truly understood it, making their voice all the more impactful when they choose to let it be heard. Choosing not to post allows for real connections to blossom. In a world where social media is designed to foster constant interaction, it's easy to get caught up in the idea that visibility equals connection. We think that if we don't share our lives online, if we don't post updates or photos, we're somehow missing out on the chance to connect with others. But the reality is the most meaningful relationships often aren't the ones we broadcast to the world. They're the ones that happen quietly, away from the digital stage. The people who don't post are a living reminder of this truth. They're the ones who can show up for you without needing to remind you that they did. They don't need to prove their friendship with tagged photos or status updates. They simply are there in ways that matter, in ways that are more real than any digital interaction could be. When you choose to step back from the constant stream of posts and updates, you start to notice something important. You begin to value the people who check in on you without needing to be reminded. They remember you, not because you've posted about your day, but because they are present in your life in a way that transcends the superficiality of online connection. Non-posters tend to build relationships that don't require validation or proof. These connections aren't measured by the frequency of likes or comments, but by the depth of the interaction. There's something profoundly grounding about these types of friendships, ones that aren't built on the need for public acknowledgement, but on genuine understanding and shared experience. For non-posters, real connection is about presence, not performance. They aren't trying to impress anyone with their latest adventures or accomplishments, and they certainly aren't seeking applause from an audience. Instead, they value the quiet, unspoken moments that often go unnoticed in the digital world. The simple act of showing up for someone, of offering support without broadcasting it to the world, holds far more weight for them than any number of likes on a post. They've realized that the people who truly care for them are the ones who reach out without needing an update, who remember the small details and who nurture their relationships without the need for public displays. The beauty of this kind of connection is that it is free from the pressure to perform. In the age of social media, we often get caught in the game of keeping up appearances. We worry about showing off the best parts of our lives, making sure we're in the best light, or crafting the perfect image of ourselves. But those who choose not to post have broken free from that cycle. They understand that connection doesn't need to be showcased or validated by others. They've found a deeper, quieter form of connection, one that's not based on impressing anyone, but on simply being present with the people who matter. These relationships are more genuine because they're based on real interactions, not mediated by the need for external validation. And perhaps the most liberating thing about choosing not to post is the ability to enjoy life without constantly thinking about how it will be perceived. When you're no longer concerned with turning every experience into content, you begin to live more fully. You can take in the moment without the distraction of framing it for the perfect shot or crafting the perfect caption. You're not seeking the approval of an audience, so your experience becomes richer, more authentic, and more meaningful. You stop performing for the camera and start being in the moment, truly experiencing what's around you without the filter of needing to prove it to anyone. In essence, the people who don't post are teaching us a valuable lesson about the nature of real connection. It's not about how much we share or how many people see it. It's about how deeply we connect with those who genuinely care about us. It's about the moments that happen quietly, behind the scenes, when no one else is watching. It's in these unshared, unfiltered moments that we find the truest form of connection. And for those who choose not to post, they found that the most meaningful relationships are the ones that don't need to be broadcasted for them to be real. Real self-worth is not measured by external validation, and the people who don't post are a testament to this. In today's digital world, we've all been conditioned to seek approval, whether we realize it or not. We post a photo or a thought, and the validation comes in the form of likes, comments, and shares. It's easy to slip into the habit of equating our worth with how much attention we receive online. The more likes we get, the more we feel seen, important, or validated. But for those who don't post, their self-worth is not tied to how many people acknowledge them on social media. They've found a deeper sense of value that doesn't depend on the digital applause of others. This is not to say that they don't appreciate connection or recognition. It's just that they don't rely on it to define who they are. They have a solid sense of self, grounded in their own values, experiences, and personal growth, not in the validation from an online audience. The people who don't post understand something that most of us forget in the rush of social media. True self-worth comes from within. They don't need others to constantly remind them of their value because they already know their worth is intrinsic. It's not something that can be measured by the number of likes on a post or the number of followers they have. It's something deeper, more stable, and more enduring. This internal sense of worth also means that they are less affected by the pressure to perform for an audience. In a world where visibility is often confused with importance, they've learned to separate the two. Just because they're not constantly visible online doesn't mean they are any less important, any less meaningful, or any less valuable. They know that being unseen doesn't equate to being insignificant. Their value doesn't fluctuate based on the fleeting attention of the digital world. They understand that their life has meaning whether or not it is shared with others. This kind of inner security also leads to a certain freedom. When you stop posting, stop performing for an online audience, you stop measuring yourself against a digital standard. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth through likes, comments, or followers. This liberation comes from the understanding that who you are is enough, regardless of how much or how little you share. It's a quiet rebellion against the digital systems that equate visibility with value. These individuals aren't interested in the superficial metrics of approval. They're focused on what truly matters, living authentically, cultivating real relationships, and finding personal fulfillment. Interestingly, this peace with self often leads to a more meaningful life. People who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't need constant external validation, are freer to pursue their passions and goals without worrying about how they'll be perceived. They aren't living for the likes, they're living for themselves. And this results in a richer, more fulfilling existence, one that is not dependent on the shifting tides of online opinion, but on the steady foundation of self-awareness and self-worth. Moreover, this inner confidence is contagious. When you meet someone who isn't constantly seeking validation from the outside world, it's evident. There's a calm, quiet confidence about them, one that doesn't need to be loud or performative. They don't need to broadcast every victory to feel accomplished. They simply live their lives with purpose, content in the knowledge that they don't need approval to be valuable. It's a quiet strength that many people are drawn to, because it's rare. In a world that's always seeking attention, those who don't need it stand out in a powerful way. For many of us, social media can feel like an endless quest for approval, and it's easy to get lost in the cycle of posting to prove our worth. But the people who don't post remind us that we don't have to play that game. They've understood something vital. Our worth isn't determined by the number of likes we get or the validation of others. It comes from within. It's rooted in who we are when no one is watching. And this realization is liberating. When you stop measuring your self-worth by online metrics, you start living more authentically. You no longer need to prove anything. You just are. And in a world that is constantly demanding attention and validation, this is the most powerful form of self-expression.